So the first person that you spoke about was Dr. J. And to me, he was, I totally agree. He was the first person that I was sort of introduced to that was like the flat, and even though his personality was always very respectful and humble, it seemed, or at least it seemed to me, he was kind of the first superstar that sort of started to elevate the professional basketball. I felt like in that era, and then it was like an almost a need to replace him with the next person, and the next people to kind of step in were like Magic and Bird. But it felt like Jordan was the true like successor to Dr. J. And then everybody since then has been kind of looking for the successor to Jordan. And I think we sort of saw that a little bit, you know, with Kobe. I think there could be made an argument that he potentially was, and obviously some people will now make that argument for LeBron. How do you see that transition of those players? Because to me, those were some of the really key players to not just the health of the game, but also for the culture of the sport.
Yeah, well, I think fans, one thing that maybe, okay, so it was said that the NBA at some point was a little more shaky, may make it, may not. I think the thing about Dr. J was he could score consistently, but he had the athleticism. And I think that's people who don't really follow basketball who couldn't tell me how many points per game Jordan has would know that what, you know, they identify him as that airborne player that just has the theatrics that, you know, that catches the eye to begin with, and then back it up with, you know, I think he's an all-star every year. He's in the NBA. He's, you know, time MVP. He even won the Defensive Player of the Year once. You know, so he's got the goods statistics-wise to back up the flair. He can't just be all flair. I think maybe Vince Carter will eventually be in the Basketball Hall of Fame, but I thought it was interesting that his cousin Tracy McGrady is in and he's not. I think that really speaks more to statistics and consistency. That you know, people would say like, I love watching Vince Carter, but he can't play defense. You know, or like I wouldn't have him on my team to play defense. Jordan can play perimeter defense like any, you know, point guard could, or any guy on your team who doesn't. His job is not to score, is to play defense. Like Jordan's as good as that guy. So I don't know. I think, yeah, there's an impetus to keep replacing the theatrics and the flair. And I think, yeah, LeBron did it. And, you know, he's a little less airborne, but Steph Curry, of course, just, you know, he takes Jordan's
beautiful player.
He hits all the threes from no matter where he shoots from in most games when it matters. So there's that. But there's so many more players in the game that have that multi-dimensional ability to be dominant of both offense, defense. You know, Shaq said the big man is back. I still don't think that the game is centered around the center the way it was, you know, maybe in New York under Patrick Ewing or
Definitely not a center that is really based in the post anymore. Like you mentioned, a Shaq, a Patrick Ewing, where you're going to feed him in the post. Like it feels like it's now. What's the guy for Milwaukee? I can't think of his name, but yeah. I mean, it's that kind of dynamic big man now that I feel like is the future of the league and probably the present as well.
Well, we'll see. But I mean, Jordan will be, you know, the will be resurrected when there's a player that make enough and good enough and check all those boxes to be able to in the air and, you know, score these just death-defying slam dunks, but also get, you know, close to 30 points a game consistently and you know, bring your team a championship. All those things got. I mean, maybe there will be nobody as good as Jordan. I think it's a possibility, but you know, who knows? The game has changed. There's so many teams with great players. There's a lot more pressure on the average player to do more things just to make it. So then you would think that naturally, you know, if you're got economics in your mind and sort of market pressures, that's going to create a player that is good enough to withstand and all that and excel above it. You know, I think that's just sort of the natural way that it goes. But it may be several years before we see the next Jordan for sure.